welcome to another Coffee with Kilroy, or what I sometimes call beverage in a book. My beverage, well, I think you figured that out by the title and the picture or video. The book is War Stories, a World War II RPG. This is by G.I. Garcia. It is got a couple different, I guess the publisher is Firelock Games, but it's a year zero engine here. I've covered several RPG military type games. One of the first ones that I covered on my channel was Behind Enemy Lines, which was a FASA game, and it was one that I played back in the 80s and really enjoyed that game. And, you know, there's not a lot of World War II role-playing games or RPG games out there. Another one that I've covered, either I don't know if I've covered it before or after this. You let me know. Sometimes I get my publishing out of whack. But was a GURPS World War II, which is based on the GURPS system, which is kind of a universal role-playing system. But this one came out and it looked somewhat interesting, and I wanted to pick it up not only to see how it handles World War II role-playing, but I've got a kind of a pet project that I'm thinking about working on, a World War II kind of RPG in a book, kind of a solo game on RPG role-playing. But anyway, that's that is a little bit far down the road. It's still kind of in the conceptual stage. So this is kind of research on that. So let's take a look at the back here. It's kind of hard to see that back here. Let's go a little bit closer in. Let me move my coffee out of the way. Let me have a sip. I recommend you have a sip too, whatever you're drinking or whatever you're enjoying. I really do value this time when people stop by and listen to me ramble as I look at games and other things. So, God, this is really hard to read there for me, but it says War Stories is a role-playing game. Man, with that font is really hard to see there. It's a role-playing game set during the violence and drama of the Second World War. In it, your characters will wage the war of the greatest generation. It's going to be too hard to read this because it's so, the font is so small and it's white on black and it's kind of faded white except for some of these bolds here. But you guys can take a screen grab and take a look at what is in here. But it's basically the rules. This talks about, has fatigue and stress rules. It's got platoon level background characters, background information, concise vehicle rules, a comprehensive arsenal of weapons, archetypes, and life path creation, intense mass combat rules. That's always interesting. An assortment of optional rules and an introductory scenario. So there you have it. I'm not familiar with Firelock Games or the Year Zero engine. So if you are familiar with that, please chime in and let me and others know what you think about it. Or if you've played this game or have this book, what you think about it as well. So let's get the shrink off of it and get in here. Sorry I couldn't read that whole back there, but these tired old eyes. Let's get some coffee here. Maybe that will help me out. And then let's get in a little bit closer here. And this is hardback. Oh, I like that. So there's the inside cover there. Very nice. I like the art. So what we have here, we have a Rendezvous with Destiny, character creation, skills and their use, specialization and talents, combat, which is probably a pretty important aspect of most role-playing games, but especially in a World War II game. Damage and healing, vehicles, weapons and gear, campaign, telling the war story. That's probably the aspect of role-playing it. And then you have some, chapter 11 here is the liberation of the West, the combatants, the tank. This is an intro scenario. Oh man, you might have to go up against a tank with just your squad or maybe yourself. Then we have an appendix, which is Appendix 1 is glossary. Appendix 2 is historical references and inspiration. Appendix 3 is tables and lists, epilogue, and index. Look at there. All right, there's the credits. Here is a rendezvous with destiny. So I imagine this is going to be some background. And if you're watching this channel, you probably already have a little bit of background on World War II. So War Story is a historical RPG of the Second World War. You need players, you need a game master, or this is basic RPG stuff. Kind of walking you through that. It's dual column with these little sections. Relatively small type, but maybe you're getting more information in there. So here's the campaign setting, starting the game, tools of the game, the rules, the character sheets, dice, cards, maps. So I wonder if there's special dice or if one of those, looks like they have 6-sided and 10-sided. I imagine they sell these embossed dice, maybe. All right, here's character creation. Let's see what this is all about. Aspects of a character. You have attributes are strength, agility, intelligence, and empathy. Wow, interesting. Empathy is looks like it's charisma, emotional stability, and discipline. So, okay, so kind of morale, maybe. It would translate into most of our board war games. Got endurance. Here's skills, specializations, talents, character flaws, and virtues. Here's some sample flaws. So we got like gullible, heartless, sample virtues, fearless, patient. All right, your buddy, appearance, name, gear, languages, encumbrance. Here's your archetype versus life path. So these are maybe the archetypes. You have rifleman, scout, and they have some of the key, like nationalities, British, Canadian, and US. You've got your service key attribute is agility, service branch, skills, specializations, talents, character flaws, character virtue, and appearance. So this kind of gives you a template for a rifleman to pick how you want to build them. Here's a medic, weapon specialist, leader, engineer, the partisan, the correspondent. And here's character creation life path method. So that'd be interesting how that works. So, wow. So do you roll on this? Oh, you have the steps. So you got 14 steps for the life path. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. Group concept, upbringing. So here's some, so here's your upbringing. You can be a street kid, gives you a little bit of background story, and give you some starting skills and some key attributes. You get some bonuses. Here's a rural or small town, working class, military background. And you're going to roll a D6, and that's going to help you figure out what your background is. Here's an intellectual. Here's a fluent. Why are they doing there? Didn't they dodge the draft? I'm sorry about that. Here's languages. Here's pre-war experience. Your pre-war experience could be military, law enforcement, blue-collar labor, professional, academic, or other. Sorry, I'm getting some glare there. Sorry about that. If you missed any of this with the glare, sorry. So here's military. Oh, so this is your pre-war experience. They have charts for each, or templates for each one of those, or not necessarily templates, but charts you're going to roll on. So if you're law enforcement, you get a little bit more detail on your background. So this is relatively involved on getting your character creation. You're kind of building the story. That's something that I really enjoyed about Traveler. That was my first role-playing game. I played that before Dungeons & Dragons, and I really loved the aspect of, you're you're role playing as you're building your character, and that they could actually die as you were creating them. That was always awesome. Here's other experience. Military service, criminal, military intelligence. Wow, there's so much stuff in here. Then here's finishing your character. And here's a character sheet. So this is an example sheet of what you might see with the character, with its strength, agility, intelligence, empathy, wounds, wariness, fear, morale. Empathy does kind of looks like it goes into morale, possibly. Weapons, talents, specializations, gear, and here's experience points, little bubbles there. Here's your background. Very cool. Making background characters, or maybe call them NPCs or what have you. Here's talent, flaw, and virtue, advancement, and leveling up. Experience and leveling up, gotta have that. Rank and medals, medals with perks, this is an optional rule. Then you get into skills. So that's relatively involved rolling up a character there. That's very interesting. So here, this is skills and their use. So this is, probably basically checks or skill checks or whatever you want to call it. You have success, failure, pushing your luck, duds, lucky strikes, and foobars. What is foobar? All right, some restrictions, mishaps, group tests, oppose test, modifiers. Here's the skills. We've got skills under strength, agility, intelligence, and empathy. Kind of cool there. So like agility is like infiltrate, nimble, operate, and ranged combat. Let me get some drink here. Under strength, it's stuff like calisthenics, close combat, heavy weapons, and stamina. So you get a good idea of these different skills, how they tie to a key ability. That's kind of cool. Kind of interlaced there. So they're going to go into like insight, which is tied to intelligence. It's going to tell you unskilled, failure, success, asterisk successes. So kind of stuff when you have to make an insight roll, give you an idea of what that's about. This is all about skills. Then we get to specializations and talents. So here's your calisthenics, close combat, heavy weapons, stamina. So they're talking about all that kind of stuff. There's some further breakdown here. Like for heavy weapons, you have gun savvy, 1 and 2, launch crew, 1 and 2, loader, loader 2, machine gunner 2, stuff like that. Survival, tech, guts, command, persuasion, all kinds of good stuff in here. And here are all those different talents. Kind of cool here. Here's rage, precise, swimmer, cool. All right, here's combat, chapter 5. Talking about actions you can take. So there's slow action, fast actions, free actions, special actions like aiming, delay, first aid, and rally, focus strike, overwatch, and reload. Some combat basic concepts, movement, range, zones, visibility, obstructions. Here's close combat. Here's range combat. Here's modes of fire, single shot, rapid fire, burst fire, full auto, who got hit. Suppression fire. Yeah, this is all good stuff here. Here's ammunition, cover and armor protective saves. Really good stuff here. Here's damage and healing, taking damage. That was the one thing about behind enemy lines. I mean, you got hit, you die. I mean, you could probably take, depending on where you got hit, you might be able to take 1 or 2 hits, but getting hit was relatively realistic. It was relatively fatal. And so that was something that was kind of interesting. So you like in most role-playing games, you want to advance the character and get to the next level and get experience points and all that other stuff. Behind Enemy Lines was really kind of one-shot missions. It was a lot of, build your crew, go on this mission, and hopefully you get some of them to come back alive, because there was a lot of intense combat and fatalities, where this one looks like maybe there is a little bit more survivability, maybe. Might have to look into that. And that's always the kind of the trade-off. You try to make it a little bit more survivable so you can actually get a character to a little bit to another level versus realism, right? Incapacitated, coup de grace, critical hit. There's character critical hit charts. So maybe this is pretty fatal too, right? Infections, permanent injuries. Here's effects, healing up. Fatigue, stress, oh my God. Incapacitation from stress. Stress and trauma, combat fatigue. Here's a whole combat fatigue chart here. Yeah, this is gonna be great for my research. I'm gonna be able to pull some of this out. Right, here's vehicles. Man, this is gonna be a long one, y'all. Sorry, there's a lot of, and I'm just kind of breezing through this. So here's your different tanks. You got nation, crew, what is that? Handling, speed, chassis, armor, deflection, armor forward, armor sides, armor rear and top, armor underside, size, main gun, loading, secondary gun, other weapons, reliability, and then notes. So here's some of your tanks, key tanks here for allies. Here's some Axis tanks here. Other vehicles, main guns, heavy anti-tank guns, light anti-tank guns. And here we go into a little bit more detail on some of those. Here's some more vehicles. Here's vehicle damage. Very cool. Advanced vehicle combat rules. That's optional. Here's weapons and gear. Very cool. Not as much imagery, but a lot of text in here. And again, the font is relatively small, so there is a lot of information packed in this book, I have to tell you. Here's your pistols. Here's some side views of that. Here's your rifles and some more side views there. Wow. Submachine guns, machine guns, heavy weapons, mortars, grenades, rocket launcher, mines, special weapons like flamethrowers, melee, tomato, weapons, heavy tank, anti-armor, and here's your gear list right here. Gear details, more gear, then we get to the campaign. So we have campaign battles, simulating the battle, battle outcomes. So you can kind of get into, maybe you kind of roll in between some of the campaigns and see what's happening, and then you're doing certain, aspects of the battle, or maybe special missions. Behind Enemy Lines was just that. It was behind enemy lines. It was mostly special missions, small teams, either squads or teams going into enemy territory. This one looks like you might be able to, do whatever you want, major battles, recon, special missions, or what have you. Here's scavenge finds. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be able to use some of this stuff. There's a lot of charts here. All right, telling the war story. This is your job as the GM, kind of how you run the game. Here's 1940s lingo, alternative campaign ideas, adventure ideas. Yeah, here's battles, patrol, reconnaissance, and rescue. Supply run, assassination, espionage, humanitarian, defense, communications, seek and destroy, kidnap, behind enemy lines, seek and retrieve, ambush. Here's using miniatures. Here's arbitrary death. Oh, God. A lot of my players when I was a DM probably talked about that. All right, the liberation of the West. Here's historical role-playing. So here's a timeline. So here's some of your history here, which, again, if you're watching this channel, you're probably more versed in this than maybe some of this. But then again, this might be a decent reference. We've got some charts here. It's cool. Hygiene, lack of supplies, black market. Oh, that's cool. Friendly fire. The combatants. Oops, sorry. Kind of cut that off. Here's the allies. Here's how there's some kind of structure, squad level, infantry platoon, defense tactics. This is mostly small unit tactical, I would say. Although they said there were some rules for mass combat. I don't know if I missed that or if that's coming up. Here's the Axis. Okay, there's the guy from Indiana Jones, from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Alrighty. Here's sample access and NPC players. And if you're new to role-playing, NPC is non-player character. The tank. Here's the introductory scenario. I'll kind of flip through this because we don't want to spoil it, right? Oh man, you're going up against a Panzer IV. Here's the glossary. Historical reference, tables and lists. So maybe that was in the battle section, that mass combat. There was a whole section kind of on battles. Oh, look at this. This is cool. So we got a resolve attack test. So we got a little decision tree there. Cool. Some charts, some example characters right out of the book. And then the epilogue, and then your index. There you have it. Wow, there is a lot in here. I've been waiting for this to kind of come down to a reasonable price and then pick it up. But there's quite a bit in War Stories, a World War II RPG. So there you have it. Thank you for stopping by and having some coffee with me. Love to know your thoughts on this. Sorry for taking so long, but there was a lot in this book, and I flipped through it pretty quick. So love to know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. And I'll put links to some of my other coverage on RPG military, especially like behind enemy lines and other stuff. So anyway, thank you all. Take care. Thanks for watching.